Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Hey, Phil, since you're on the call, let's do a sound check. Make sure my new microphone is working. Can you hear me okay? You can type in the chat, give me a thumbs up or something. Just let me know you can hear me on this new mic. Testing 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3. Again, testing 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3. I know this mic was working on my other application I was just using. I can hear you. Great. Okay. Perfect. Only my second YouTube live session, and so this is going to be fun. Used to doing Zoom these days. Actually, for the last 2 years, been doing lots and lots of Zoom meetings. But whereabouts are you today, Phil? What part of the country are you hanging out in? You in your wonderful home of Chicago, or are you back on the road somewhere? And we're going to get started in just a few minutes. And by the way, Phil, I'm going to Indiana, headed to Texas to see Quincy. Okay. Good old DJ. Well, actually, I'm sorry, Quincy. He's down in Texas. Oh, that's right. Spoke to him a couple days ago. I got to be touching base with him again early this coming week to go over a few things. In fact, I may want to, maybe we can all do a little Zoom call or something while you're hanging out with Quincy. We'll maybe chat about that later. Yeah. I imagine. Like my daughter's in Virginia, and it was chilly there in the 20s. I imagine Chicago, the Windy City, that wind whipping off the lake. I remember. So best to be further south this time of year and for the next couple of months for sure. At least as often as you can, whenever you can. And Phil, I'm going to switch over to my PowerPoint presentation. And if you will just let me know if anything changes, I want to make sure that going on to another screen doesn't eliminate my video feed, because I'm going to be using a PowerPoint presentation that originally I thought I was going to be able to display on the screen, not being aware that you actually need special software for that when you're doing it on YouTube. I'm used to Zoom, and again, just sharing my screen. So if you'll let me know that you can still see me talking and that I haven't gone off the screen, that would be a wonderful thing. And I'm going to come back now. Yeah, YouTube is not as functional in terms of training as Zoom, like we did in our when we were going through our training. Or DJ, I guess, sat through most of it. But again, it's Zoom is much simpler and easier to use when you're actually trying to cover specifics. It's easier to display stuff up on the screen while you're talking. So again, if when you get a chance, if you could just let me know that I did not fade away into oblivion there for about 30 or 40 seconds when I flipped to the other screen. So I make sure that we're not just dead in the water, not doing anything. That would be wonderful. And then I'm going to go ahead and get started in just about a minute and just start moving along. Let's see. Yep, and this is where I need two different screens going. Welcome. So somebody else joined us. Feel free to introduce yourself. Okay. Thank you, Phil. So just give us your first name and where you're calling in from or logging in from. About ready to get started in just about 30 seconds here. Hello, Cassandra. Good morning. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Good morning. Tony DeCrease here with Freight Brokers Academy. And first, let me apologize. This is only my second YouTube live session I've ever done. I'm used to using Zoom, and Zoom is much more user-friendly. And I did not realize that screen sharing within YouTube Live doesn't work automatically. You actually have to have some special software. So I had a wonderful PowerPoint presentation prepared and ready to go to have things popping up on the screen while I was talking about them. It's always easier when you can hear it and you can see it at the same time. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen this morning. So I'm going to do my best to be clear, not speak too quickly. But for anybody that wants a copy of the PowerPoint presentation and the recording, I will have that available. Just send me a text message, send me an email, success@freightbrokersacademy.com, and I'll be happy to forward that on to you so you can actually have both the audio and the PowerPoint presentation that details the things I'm going to talk about. So, hey, Tammy, how you doing? Good to see you. Good to have you with us. So again, Tammy, this is like I said, Zoom. When we typically would have the PowerPoint presentation up and me talking as well. So I may go back to the monthly Zoom meetings instead of YouTube Live in the future because from a technical standpoint, it's just easier to do those. But welcome. And you'll be able to relate to some of these things we're talking about because the topic of today's discussion is freight agent versus freight broker and which is right for you. And first, I think we should talk about what do they both have in common. And one of the things, there's several things. Number one, it doesn't really require any kind of industry experience to get started in the freight brokerage business. I mean, it's helpful if you've been in the trucking business. I know a couple of you on the call right now are successful trucking company owners. And that's one of the things that got you interested in becoming a freight broker. Um, Freight agents, freight brokers typically work from home, and commonly they can work from anywhere. So again, I know Phil, you're on the road right now, for example, and I've corresponded with you in many different parts of the country. So for people in the trucking business, whether you're a truck driver or a trucking company owner, or any type of business, you can travel. You can be at home, you could be at the beach, you could be on vacation, and you could still get your work done. So from that standpoint, freight agent, freight broker, you can work pretty much from anywhere. Another thing they both have in common is relatively low startup costs compared to other new businesses. Now, there are some differences. Freight broker typically is going to take some more cash than a freight agent, but still, compared to other businesses, it takes a lot less to get into the freight brokerage business, even as a freight broker. They also both have in common the fact that they're in high demand. There are thousands of shipments each day. And over the last year and in recently, the demand has continued to increase. Freight brokers and freight agents are even in greater demand as our supply chain problems exacerbate, and it's harder to find truck drivers, and pay is getting more competitive. Even companies that used to do most of their own shipping in house are having to use and look for trucks outside of their organization. So freight agents and freight brokers are both in tremendously high demand. And then unlimited earning potential. One of the nice things about this business is there is just a ton of money to be made. Excellent income for both agents and brokers. Brokers a little more so because they have the ability to have people working underneath them as well. But again, excellent money to be made for both. And then finally, one of the great things about the business, and one of the things that attracted me to it initially, coming from the trucking business, which was a 7-day a week, 24-hour a day kind of business, is there's typically no working nights, no working weekends, no working holidays. So those are some of the things that freight brokers and freight agents have in common. Now, um, let's talk about the differences. And we're going to kind of take this step by step. We'll talk about the experience that's needed for both, the skills that are required for a freight agent versus a freight broker, differences in work schedule, differences in startup cost, how quickly you can start making money for a freight agent versus a freight broker, and then the income potential. Now, regarding experience needed, freight agents, typically there's really none that's required. Now, this is a sales related type of position. So, some sales related experience of some type in any industry would be helpful, since, again, you're basically in a sales related position. Freight broker, same thing applies. No particular experience required. However, if you're planning to build a sales team, for example, underneath you, I think some experience might be helpful. Sales management or personnel management or business management experience in any industry would be helpful if you want to go the freight broker business route. Now, skills that are needed for a freight agent: ability to speak clearly and intelligently. That's a requirement. If people can't understand what you're saying, or what you're saying doesn't make sense, you're not likely to be successful as a freight agent. Another thing that I think is required is good listening skills. The most successful salespeople, the most successful people in the freight brokerage business have excellent listening skills. They ask good questions and they listen and make good notes. So they know what is really a particular prospect, whether it's a trucking company or a shipping company, really is looking for and needs. Self-discipline and self-motivation. This is required. Whether you're a freight agent or a freight broker, you're going to be working on your own, especially starting out as a freight agent. You're working typically from your home, and there is nobody there to tell you when to get up, when to make the first phone call, when to stop working, how often to take breaks, how many calls to make during the course of the day. So it does require some self-discipline and some self-motivation. And then finally, I recommend that you actually like talking to people, because that's what you're going to be doing for 80 to 90% of the time, especially when you first start. If you don't like talking to people, this probably isn't the business for you. Now, as a freight broker, the skills that are needed, all those same things we talked about for a freight agent. Speak clearly and intelligently, have good listening skills, got to have self-discipline, self-motivation, got to like talking to people, because initially you are basically doing the job of a freight agent until you have a team of successful freight agents working underneath you, bringing in money. On top of that, I really think if you're going to have a if you're going to be a licensed and bonded freight broker, and especially if you're going to be recruiting a sales force underneath you, you got to have some business management skills. You got to understand a little bit about finance, a little bit about accounting, a little bit about personnel management, planning, forecasting, because you're running a business. There are things outside of just the job of freight agent that you'll be responsible for. Again, if you're going to be recruiting and managing people, you should have some leadership skills. You should be the type of person that people like, respect, trust, and are willing to follow what you say and what you want them to do. So leadership skills, I think, are very helpful and a good skill to have if you're going to be a freight broker. And then finally, I think you need to have good decision-making skills, because the buck stops with you. You're the one that determines the policies and the procedures for your business. If it comes in a debate on pricing, you're the one that makes the call. What's the minimum profit level is acceptable that you're going to allow your agents to do, or that you're going to do yourself? Who gets hired? Very important. You got to be the ability to assess people is important. So making good decisions about who you hire and the policies and procedures you put in place. A little more involved as a freight broker than just being a freight agent. Now, work schedule, freight agent, basically Monday through Friday, you start at 7 or 8 a.m. and you typically work until 4 or 5 p.m. in whatever time zone you plan to work in. And that can vary depending, but that's the typical work schedule for a freight agent. Typically no nights, no weekends, no holidays. Freight broker, you're working those same hours as a freight agent, plus typically you're working an extra 1 to 2 hours more per weekday, and maybe a few hours on the weekend too, because you've got some paperwork, you got to do planning, you're having to take care of payroll, you're invoicing shippers to make sure you get paid, you're doing accounts payable, you're responsible to pay all the bills for the company. And on top of that, if you're not a one-person show, you're recruiting and training other freight agents. So that's going to take some extra hours and commitment on your time. And then there's all sorts of other little things related to running any type of business that will take some time as well. Now, freight agent versus freight broker on startup costs. For a freight agent, a few $100s for training and the cost of a printer or copy or a scanner if you don't already have one. So typically, for a freight agent, it's well under $1,000 to get started in the business. Freight broker, on the other hand, typically you better have a minimum of $5,000 to $10,000 in the bank, and oftentimes more. This is not available on your credit card. This is not in your retirement account, unless you're 55 and you can take it out without incurring any kind of penalties. This is cash in the bank reserved for starting your business. You got the cost of a broker's license. You got the cost of a $75,000 surety bond. You've got the cost of contingent cargo liability insurance, that even though that's not a requirement for your license, it's a practical requirement for being able to do business with some of the larger shipping accounts that you're going to want to do business with. And then you better have 2 to 3 months of actual operating expenses for the business: load board service, logistics software, payroll for your agents, insurance premiums, advertising to make sure, again, if you're going to be recruiting and training agents, you're going to have to advertise for those. So this all adds up. And in addition to that, since this typically is a full-time job, full-time business, you're not bringing in income now from some other source, you need dollars to cover your personal bills. So you've got the expense, the startup expenses, and the operating expenses for 2 to 3 months for your new business. And you got to have some money stashed aside to pay your own personal household bills, your mortgage, your car payments, your own health insurance, food, utilities, clothes for the kids, whatever. And that doesn't even count your, expenses like going out to eat, however often you do that. So if you don't have some money stashed away, five, 10, $15,000 or more, all of a sudden, pretty quickly, uh, pressure is going to start, showing up, and it becomes difficult to do well at anything if you're under an extreme amount of pressure, especially financial pressure. And one of the ways that happens is, again, difference between freight agent and freight broker is how quickly you can start making money. As a freight agent, it's almost immediately. Could be as quickly as a few weeks before you get your first paycheck. Even though you don't expect to be on a pace to earn $100,000 a year from day one, you can start scheduling loads your first week on the job. Usually it takes several months to build up enough consistent volume to meet your minimum monthly financial goals. But again, as a freight agent, it happens much quicker. As a freight broker, not nearly as quickly. It's usually taking, well, it does. Absolutely. There's a 3 week waiting period to get your license application approved, assuming there's no issues with that. After you submit it, you must have everything in place, the license, your surety bond, everything before you can even attempt to start scheduling loads. Then you'll still need to ramp up your volume those first few months. And generally, for 30, 60, 90 days, there may not be enough money coming in to cover all your expenses. And we hope that'll be different. But again, you're going to have higher expenses as a licensed freight broker business versus a freight agent. So because it takes longer to kind of get things rolling, from day one, again, you generally aren't bringing in a single dollar that first month. It's all setup time. So second month, towards the end of it, you might start bringing in a little bit. Third month is when you may be bringing in enough to break even or even show a small profit. And generally, it's that fourth, fifth, sixth month that you start getting that revenue really cranking, especially if you're building a sales force underneath you right from day one, which we recommend. and we can talk about that further. Now, why even go through the hassle of being a freight broker business? Well, maybe that's because the income potential. First off, freight agent, first year, not uncommon, $40,000 to $75,000 a year. Your first year is typical for a freight agent, and 100,000 plus per year thereafter is not uncommon. And top freight agents who've been in the business for several years are usually consistently earning 100 to as much as $200,000 per year. Not bad for a business that you can get into without any previous experience. Now, freight broker, on the other hand, and this is where the benefit of if you've got some money that you can put into it and you have the time to let things kind of develop and build for you, that first year, up to $100,000 or more, just you, because you get to keep 100% of the commission from your sales, whereas a freight agent doesn't. And not uncommon for first year freight brokers, just from their own business that they are generating, to earn 100 to 500,000 per year after the first year consistently without any agents. Now, the potential for a freight broker and their business is $1 million or more annually if they have a team of freight agents working under them, because every freight agent you have is generally, you're getting from 25% to as much as 60% of all of the fee revenue that they're bringing into the business. Whatever's left over after you pay the trucking company for hauling the load versus what you're getting from the shipper, that goes to you as a freight broker. So, freight agent, you're making income that's generated by you. And as an agent, you're starting out somewhere, usually no more than 40 to 50% of the net fee revenue for each load. Even as an experienced freight agent, usually you're topping out at 60 to 65% commission. Freight broker, on the other hand, is always getting 100% of the net fee revenue from your loads. Plus, you can count on 40 to 60% of the net fee revenue from all the agents that are working underneath you. So let's say you average $10,000 in net fee revenue per month from the loads you secure as a freight agent. That's typically going to earn you $4,000 to $6,000 per month in commission, depending on your percentage commission schedule that you've worked out with the broker you're working under. That's $48,000 to $72,000 a year. Not bad for working Monday through Friday, being done by 4 or 5 p.m. at the latest, never working nights, never working weekends, never working holidays. As a freight broker, you average that same $10,000 net fee revenue per month from the loads you secure. And instead of earning $4,000 to $6,000 per month, you're earning 100% of that, $10,000 per month, or $120,000 per year versus that $48,000 to $72,000 as a freight agent. So that's a huge difference. Double, in some cases more than double if you're a freight broker, just from the things that you're doing, moving loads. But it gets even better. Let's use that same example. You're a freight agent, you're working for somebody else, you're earning $4,000 to $72,000 a year. Business with $100,000 a year, plus that you're bringing in on your loads. But let's say you have 10 freight agents averaging $10,000 a month in fee revenue on top of that $10,000 a month that you're doing as a freight broker, freight agent. Well, that means you're getting 40 to 60% of that additional $10,000 per month. That's $40,000 to $60,000 a month extra just from your agents. So now instead of making that $48,000 to $72,000 a year as a freight agent, getting your percentage of that net fee revenue, as a freight broker, if you've got 10 agents working underneath you and they're still making that same average production, that's another $480,000 to $720,000 per year from your freight agents. At that point, you don't ever need to have to move another load. You're no longer doing the work of a freight agent. If you're smart, you're just spending all your time recruiting and training and managing more freight agents. So you see the difference. Once you get into that freight broker business range, even versus the best freight agent in the world, the most productive freight agent you can possibly imagine, that's 5 times better than anybody else out there, there's no way they can earn as much as a freight broker who has a business with freight agents underneath them that are just average producers. Then you're looking at minimum $500,000 a year or more, and easily into the millions if you are good, if you get good at recruiting and training freight agents and managing them. So income potential, huge difference between a freight agent and a freight broker. But it's not all just about the money. If it was, then no one would ever spend any time as a freight agent. So which is best for you? Well, freight agent. Never want to work past 4 p.m., Monday through Friday? Never want to work on weekends? You want to be able to take off anytime you want? Don't like paperwork? Don't want to have to do hardly any paperwork? Don't like to deal with accounting, taxes, or legal matters, and don't want to be responsible for anyone else? You just want to manage yourself? And $100,000 per year or $500,000 a year would be nice, but you'd be okay. Earning $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year, working an easy job. Hey, freight agent, maybe the best situation for you. Now, if you want to be in total control of your business with nobody else telling you what to do or how to do it or when to do it, you don't want to split commission with anybody else, and maybe you actually like to manage or teach other people, Maybe you've already previously owned or managed another business and you liked it. And you want to maximize your income potential. You have big dollar income goals. And you've got $5, $10, $15,000 to invest. Again, 5 to 10 minimum. Then maybe the freight broker route is the way to go for you. Because in terms of long-term potential, there's no comparison. But not everybody wants that responsibility. And some people just can't afford to go that route to start with, plain and simple. I work with lots of people. In fact, one of the biggest causes of new businesses failing within their first year or two is that they're undercapitalized. They started the business without having enough money. They underestimated how much the cost of just getting it up and running and keeping it going until it reached a certain level of profitability. They underestimated how that was going to be. So if you don't have any money saved, or you only got a couple grand in the bank, freight broker business is probably not for you. Or you just don't want that responsibility. You have no interest in hiring or training or managing a bunch of other people. You just don't want that responsibility. You're happy 40, 50, 60, 70, and maybe eventually $100,000. That's great. That's fine for you. Now, so a freight agent sounds like you, boom. And most of you, many of you on the call here on the session, you've already graduated from Freight Brokers Academy. That's all you need. Or if you're here and you're listening and you're watching and you haven't gotten involved yet, Freight Brokers Academy, $298, $495, whatever session you're in, that's it. That's all you need. And we'll help you get a job as a freight agent with a freight brokerage firm when you're done. And we've got former graduates that are freight broker businesses right now and are willing to hire you. Now, freight broker business sounds like you, then you may want to attend one of our special information sessions. We're going to have this coming week. We're going to have our second installment of the Freight Broker Business Success Program that focuses exclusively on how to start a freight broker business, right? From applying for the license, getting the bond, getting your insurance, recruiting and training, and managing and motivating freight agents, everything that's involved in that. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go to our open question and answer session. And I'm just going to, anybody that has any question on anything related to freight brokerage, just simply type the question into the chat box and I will be happy to answer any question as it comes. And I'm sorry, another difference between the YouTube live chat, on this one it's set up so that you have to type into the chat box. So please type in whatever questions you have, and I will hang out this morning as long as it takes to answer any of those questions. You can also get information. In fact, at the end of probably shortly after this session, around noon today, there's an email that's going to go out that if anybody is interested in finding out more about our Freight Broker Business Success Program, and how they can either get involved in that or learn more about it, there will be an email going out with a link you can click on, and you can even schedule yourself with a one-on-one chat with me where we can talk about whether or not going that route is right for you in your situation. Or you can go to our website, freightbrokersacademy.com. There's information there. There's a section for the Freight Broker Business Success Program. You can click on that. It tells you about it. There's a place where you can watch a little video on a little bit about the program, why we created it. And you can click on a link to either participate in an upcoming information session. And I believe there's even a place where you can click and sign up for a little one-on-one chat with me. So feel free to go to the website or you can call me directly. One of the nice things about our program, I am accessible. Phone number 863-508-3675. 3084. Again, that's 863-508-3084. So let's see. All right. Oh, and let's see. Days and times for those upcoming information sessions. Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time is going to be the first one. If you're interested in finding out more about the Freight Broker Business Success Program, we're going to have a live Zoom webinar. So there will be PowerPoint information displaying on the screen. A little bit easier to retain that. So Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Pacific for how the Freight Broker Business Success Program works, how much it costs, all that good stuff. And then, Chris, hey, Happy New Year from the Ukraine to you as well. Okay, so we got folks outside the U.S. Another great thing about the Freight Broker business, we've had people from that are working in Canada, working in the Caribbean, working in Europe. Chris, I've talked to more than one person from Ukraine that was into freight brokerage in Ukraine as well. I think we got some folks down in Mexico and Central America. So you don't even have to be based here in the U.S. Had somebody in England or somewhere in the United Kingdom, British Isles. So that's another fantastic thing about our business. You can, when I say do it from anywhere, I mean really do it from anywhere. As long as you got a phone and an internet connection, you can be in the freight brokerage business. So again, Monday session, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to find out more about the Freight Broker Business Success Group, we'll be starting the next group in a couple weeks. And then we also are going to have an information session. These are the only two live sessions, and that's this coming Friday. And we're going to do that during the day. It'll be noon Eastern. So noon Eastern, 11 Central, 9 a.m. Pacific for the Freight Broker Business Success Group. And I'm seeing lots of hello, how you doing, where you're from. Again, any specific question about anything related to freight agent, freight broker business, how to get a certain type of client, how to best way to quote rates, anything related to starting up your business and or anything about any of the programs, feel free to hit me up. Just type in the question in the chat box. It'll come to me and I'll be happy to give the best answer that I can. Yeah. In the meantime, again, I've said this for a long time. I think that the freight brokerage business is one of the best businesses in the world. And I've always thought it was there's never a bad time to get in them, but I don't think there's ever been a better time than right now to get into the business. They've been talking about trying to solve the problem over in the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles for months now. They're still backed up. President Biden was supposedly encouraging everybody to open for 24 hours a day. They did that for a little while. They're shut back down. They're not operating 24 hours a day because they didn't have the trucks. They were offloading, and then they didn't have the trucks. So they were offloading from the ships to the docks, and then they didn't have enough trucks to take them from the docks to wherever, or the warehouses. So, and then they were short on employees too. So these are not simple, easy problems to resolve. And that's why there's such a great opportunity for freight agents and freight brokers. They need your help. Tia has a question. Once I had my bond and active DOTMC, however, relinquished it. Okay, I want to reactivate it. I only had the broker side, but want to add the truck side. How do I do that? Okay, good question. There are two MC authority for freight brokerage and an MC authority for being a carrier, motor carrier, trucking business to haul freight. Two separate MC authorities, totally different. The licensing requirements and the actual license type are different. So if you want both, you can have both. Now they have to be separate entities, however. In other words, the same company can't have both an MC authority for a trucking business and MC authority for freight brokerage. So you have to have two separate entities, and they're two separate licenses. Um, and a lot of places are doing that. Again, there's a couple of you on the call right now I know that have a trucking company and an MC authority for that, and then a separate MC authority for your freight brokerage business. And it's pretty much you can if it's within a certain period of time, you can reactivate an inactive MC authority. However, when it gets to a certain point, I don't remember off the top of my head what that is, you got to start from scratch. So you'll need to reinitiate a bond. You'll need to send in a new application and do all the things that have to be done. For trucking company, insurance, liability insurance is required. So you'll have to get that liability insurance in place before you can start trucking again. For the freight brokerage, it's not required for the license. Again, it's recommended as a practical matter for functioning and being productive and profitable. So I'm happy to discuss that with you offline. Again, 863-508-3084, my phone number, or send me an email, success@freightbrokersacademy.com. Happy to, or go on the website, schedule a one-on-one with me. There's a place there where you can do that. And I'm happy to discuss how we might be able to help you to get back rolling, whether it's on the trucking business side, freight brokerage side, or both. Let's see. What do I want from trucking? Want to get started this? Okay. Yeah. So been in trucking again. Want to get started freight brokerage? I think that's a great thing, great idea. Again, I think it's a perfect marriage. If you can be if you're in the trucking business, why not make your trucking business more profitable by adding a freight brokerage license so that you can broker your own loads, cut out the middleman. And because you're in the freight brokerage, because you're in the trucking business already, you already kind of know how things move, how to move a load step by step. Somebody else has been helping you get the load, and you're getting you're giving up some profitability for that. But again, I think it makes sense if you're in the trucking business to get in the freight brokerage business. I think it just makes too much sense to do it. Your trucking business becomes more profitable, and you add another profit center totally outside where you can help other people to accomplish what they need to accomplish. And if they're in trucking business, keep their trucks moving, keep them loaded at all times. A truck that's sitting is not making any money, and you can't make up for a lost load. A truck that sits for a day, you cannot make up for that. So if you're in a trucking business, you want your trucks moving all the time. If they're not unloading or loading, they're moving, or you're not making money. So I think it's a great compliment. If you're in the trucking business, you should be in the freight brokerage business as well. Why broker don't like carrier authority with less than 100? Okay. Why do brokers not like people that have been in the trucking business or have their carrier authority for less than 180 days? It's kind of the same thing with any business. You like dealing with people that have a track record. And this is a challenge for new brokers too. There are a lot of shippers and truck and carriers that don't like dealing with brand new brokers because there's no track record. Carriers, have developed that you can go on Safer, you can see a carrier's safety record, but if they've only been in business for a few months, they haven't had times to have a whole bunch of mishaps. You really don't know the quality of the drivers, whether or not they're going to have a safe driving record. If you've got a trucking company or a carrier that's been in business 3, 4, 5 years, they've got a history, a track record. Same thing with a shipper. When I was a broker, I didn't like dealing with shipping companies that weren't credit rated, that I couldn't check to see what their payment history was. So in general, in any business, not just freight brokerage business or trucking, it is a bonus to deal with companies that have been in business a little longer because there's a track record. You know what their payment history is. You know what their safety history is. And something to be said about that. And one of the things we try and teach our new agent brokers, is how to overcome when you're brand new. So the same thing happens when you're a trucking business. You have to overcome that as well. And there's certain things you can do um, to make it easier for that. And there's certain things you say, certain things you do, and it's all about relationship, really building relationships. Again, this is a long-term relationship building kind of business. The first time you talk to somebody, they don't know you from Adam. There's no reason they should trust you. So it does take some time to build a relationship. The key is getting that first load, whether you're a trucking company getting the first load, or you're a broker trying to get the truck to haul your first load, or you're a broker trying to get that shipping company to give you the opportunity to find a truck for them. And then doing what you say you're going to do, showing up when you're supposed to. Again, there's no magic to that. They can't wave a magic wand and have that go away. It's that's one of the you got to go through it. You got to work it kind of a situation. It does take time to develop a reputation, good or bad. But the longer you're in the business and the more times you do what you say you're going to do, then the easier it is to get that next load, to get the truck to haul your next load, to get the shipper to give you an opportunity to help them in getting a truck for their next load, or to close that next big deal. So I wish I had the magic words, do this and it'll overcome it, but sometimes it just takes time. And that's the challenge about starting a new business, or starting in just as a new freight agent, or whether it's a new trucking company, new freight brokerage firm, you're new as a freight agent. Some things just take a little time. And that's where that self-discipline and self-motivation comes in. And that's the importance of really liking talking to people. In that early stages, you're going to be talking to a lot of people that aren't going to do business with you. So you better enjoy talking to people, because that may be the only thing you have for a while until the money starts rolling in. So self-discipline, self-motivation, money, and just stick-to-itiveness. All right. Tia, yeah, okay. Again, just call me, email me, sign up for the program. We'll be happy to talk about the Freight Broker Business Success and mentorship only program. Tia, we do include that mentorship as well. We do one-on-one coaching. We do group live coaching. We do one-on-one coaching. We've got some people here that are on the session that participated in the first one we ever did. Yeah, that's what we do. It's a little more involved as a freight broker business. And we feel it's important, other than just giving you online training and maybe once a month live session like this, weekly group training sessions, weekly one-on-one coaching from me personally, and much more detailed and in-depth materials, processes, procedures, forms, step-by-step keys to success, what to do first, what to do second, what to do third. So that is what our Freight Broker Business Success Program is all about. Chris, you're welcome. You're welcome. Glad you were able to get some stuff out of this. All right. Any other questions? We are probably going to be wrapping this up here in a few minutes, but I am happy to stick around for as long as we have any kind of questions coming up. Any is acceptable. A new business, what kind of software is the best? Who makes the best freight agent? Questions on rates, questions on industries. You got the question. I'll do my best to answer it. What is step one right out of the gate? What is step one right out of the gate? Okay. Well, I guess that depends. Now, if we're talking freight agent, step one out of the gate is making sure you're in with a good freight broker that's going to give you a good commission schedule if possible. and you, and it will say basic freight agent, freight broker, because as a freight broker, you're going to start working like you're a freight agent because it's just you. Day one, it's just you. So step one out of the gate, you've got to make as many calls as you can each and every day. You've got to contact as many shipping accounts and as many trucking companies as you possibly can each and every day. That first 30, 60, 90 days is critical to your success as a freight agent or a freight broker. Day one, I'm organized. I'm going to figure out, I've got my list of shipping companies. I've figured out I want to attack these industries. I'm going to attack manufacturers or distributors. I'm going to attack manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers in Arizona. And I do my Google research and I figure out, I get a list of all these types of businesses. Are easy off of Google. So I'll get names of the companies, where they're located, what kind of stuff they make or distribute or sell, and website, phone number, email addresses, whatever. And then I'm going to, day one, as early as possible, going to start calling and introducing myself and asking if they at least occasionally use outside trucks for shipping of their product. And if they do, then I'm going to find out who I need to talk to get a new vendor package so I can get set up as an approved vendor. That's it. And if they don't, then I'm going to thank them for their time, tell them to have a nice day, and I'm going to go on to the next. And I'm going to do that as many times as I can. Same time, I'm going to be searching. I'm going to have my load board service, and I'm going to look for trucks. If I'm going to be working, let's say up in the Great Lakes region, and I'm in Illinois and Indiana and Wisconsin and Michigan, I'm going to be searching for empty trucks in those places. And I'm going to start introducing myself, seeing if they still need loads. Are they generally looking for loads in those areas? And I'm going to start building up my database of truckers, trucking companies. And I'm going to do that every day. So step number one, right out of the gate, every single day, starting day one, I'm going to spend as much time as possible, 80 to 90% of my time. Step one out of the gate is I'm going to be calling and talking to as many potential new shipping accounts and trucking companies that might potentially be hauling loads for me as possible. So freight agent, freight broker, doesn't matter. What part of the country you're in doesn't matter. The industry you want to attack or the geographic area you want to attack doesn't matter. I'm going to be making as many phone calls as I possibly can. I'm going to start as early as I can, and I'm going to work as long as I possibly can each and every day, Monday through Friday. No sense wasting time at nights because the people you need to talk to won't be available. It's not weekend, no holidays, no one's going to be available. So I'll be starting between 7 and 8 every morning, and I'll be working till 4 or 5 o'clock every day, as many phones as I possibly can. That's it. It's not complicated. Success in the freight brokerage business is really pretty simple. Not always easy because it takes that self-discipline and self-motivation we talked about earlier. But if you've got the self-discipline and self-motivation to kick yourself in the butt and get out of bed and get on that phone every day, you can be successful in this business. You can be wildly successful in this business. So, step one, right out of the gate. Start early, work late, Monday through Friday. Contact as many people as you possibly can each and every day. Who? Shippers and trucking companies. And just start building up that database, start building those relationships. So when you get a potential load, you've got a long list of trucking companies available to touch base with to potentially take that load. When you get a call from a trucking company saying they're looking for loads, you've got a nice long list of potential shippers to see if you can get them a load for. Hope that helps. First steps to get the broker license. Okay, well, there's an application you fill out through the FMCSA, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. So you got to fill out the application. You got to supply the information. Last I checked, there was a $300 application fee. You got to send it in. And then again, before they'll issue the license, You have to show that you've got your broker, your surety bond in place, and a few other things. And that's the starting process. And we talk about that in our Freight Broker Academy program. So the basics of how that works. And then in our Freight Broker Business Success program, we'll actually walk you through it. We'll help you with the application. We'll help you identify potential surety bond companies that you can use, help you determine, try and get the best rates possible. If you don't have $75,000 to sit in an escrow account, and you're using somebody else's money, one of these surety bond companies, we'll try and help you find the best deal where you have to put as little money down as possible and pay as little as possible on a monthly or quarterly basis. So in our program, if you haven't already applied, then that's part of it. As you're applying and waiting for the application to get approved, then we're working on all the other things that have to happen. So once you get that license, you're ready to get moving. What a lot of people do is they waste too much time, and time is money. They wait until they get their license, they apply, and then they're working on step number 2. Well, no, there's a lot of time between the point you fill out that application, submit it, and you're making money. So in our Freight Broker Business Success program, we're trying our best to get you moving along so as quickly as possible you can start generating revenue. So first step to get your broker license is obviously you got to fill out an application. I would say personally, first step is you better have someone hold your hand. And we're here to help. We'd like to help. That's what we do. But yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff you need to be doing while you're in the process of applying for that license, so you're ready to go and can start making money, getting cash flow as soon as possible. Seen way too many people excited, motivated, intelligent, who had every intention of doing well in the business, but it took them too long to get generating revenue, and they ended up having to go back to what they were doing before. It's a reality of life, not just in the freight brokerage business, but a lot of businesses. I used to be a business broker way back when, and I used to do cash flow analysis. I used to help people buy and sell businesses, and it's amazing the failure rate for new businesses of all kinds. First year, 50% of all new businesses that start aren't in existence after the second year. I mean, that's a pretty big failure rate. And most businesses fail within a few months. A lot of people never really get off the ground. So, but that's first step, apply for the license. And then you better have a plan or a program to be working at the same time, so you're ready to rock and roll and be bringing in revenue right from day one if possible. Good question. Any other questions on any topic related to freight brokerage, freight agents, freight brokers, starting your business, recruiting and trading, freight agents, making lots of money, industry segments? I got about 5 more minutes. We said we'd be here for an hour, and we're at about minute 55 of actually working in here. So if you got anything else, go ahead and type it on into the chat box, and I'll be happy to answer. By the way, feel free to check out our Freight Broker Academy fan page. Like us there. I appreciate the thumbs up on the YouTube video here. And by the way, we got a YouTube channel. There's tons of training videos, free training videos on our YouTube channel. So if you haven't been regularly visiting us on YouTube, there are some great stuff that we have on our YouTube channel to go back on, previous live training sessions. So feel free to check us out. It's just YouTube / like Freight Brokers Academy. I'm sure you can probably have some kind of connection right from here. This recording will probably be available to re-listen to for anybody that was taking notes on anything and couldn't write fast enough. Philip, always trying to great information. Hey, I appreciate that, Phil. We do our best. And again, my apologies for not having the fancy software that I guess you need to have so I could have a little PowerPoint presentation in the back and some of the things that I was saying flashing on the screen. Again, anybody that's interested in that PowerPoint presentation to go along with what I was talking about early, just let me know and I will send that to you. I'll probably go ahead and do a voiceover on it, so it'll have me talking and the PowerPoint pages popping up on the screen. So, Phil, I'm looking forward to chatting with you and Quincy and DJ probably next week. I got some stuff we need to do to help you get that business really rocking and rolling, and get your freight agents going and get the cash rolling in. Tammy, I don't know if you're still here, but hopefully we'll be spending some time together soon as well. I remember you sending me talking about your New Year's resolutions to get the freight brokerage business really rolling in 2022. So happy to see what I can do to help there. And for all the rest of you out there, to sign up for future live training sessions. And we've got a couple of those. If you want to find out more about the Freight Broker Business Success Program, there's a little tab on our website for that where you can sign up for the training session, or you can sign up for a one-on-one with me. Feel free to call me, 863-508-3084, or you academy.com. Thank you for joining me today. I hope everyone got a little something out of this session. I enjoy, as always, being able to share from my experiences, and I wish everybody the best in 2022.